Hey, what's up, guys? Ronin Man here. Today I want to talk about the Japanese ability to not see certain things and how this is so valuable. I think other nationalities could really use this skill. And it has obviously pluses and minuses, and it fits into your life in a certain way. It's a skill that is so valuable. So it's going to be a quick video. I just want to try to explain it. Okay, so when I first got to Japan, first thing I noticed, which is what most people notice, is that the place is super crowded. You know, Tokyo is, I lived near Shinjuku Station. Shinjuku Station, I think, is still today. I don't know, it was then. It was the most crowded, most, like the most customers per day, whatever, the busiest train station in the world. And so people come in and out of Shinjuku Station. Like, there's even jokes. There's an online hilarious website called The Rising Wasabi, and there was an article recently about a foreigner who, was lost for 2 weeks in Shinjuku Station, and he was surviving on cockroaches and stuff. Absolutely, I love The Rising Wasabi. It fucking cracks me up. There's so many hilarious articles in there, especially if you lived in Japan. But so that's the kind of situation, right? So I lived right near there. That was where I was teaching English when I first got to Japan. Was I was studying Japanese and teaching English to pay the bills and get my visa near Shinjuku Station. So that was it was right. In fact, it was like right across from Shinjuku West exit, right? So I was it West exit? No, South exit. And so when I would get on the train in the morning, it was fucking insanely crowded, right? Because I got up early and I went to school, and I was like, whoa, like it was so crowded, and like I couldn't even, like, I'm like from a beach town, or like when I grew up, we were like 100,000 people. I lived, I was born in Phoenix, and in a countryside, like, trailer park, like there was no people. We lived in all kinds of small towns in Seligman and Scottsdale, at the outskirts of all these cities, because we were not wealthy, right? And so we always lived way outside of town, and there wasn't much to do. There was just me and my brother, my sister, and snakes and rocks and things, right? So I wasn't used to like a lot of people. Like, my basic nervous system was trained around very few people. So when I went to Tokyo, and also, where I spent most of my life was quite quiet and sleepy type places, right? And a lot of foreigners are like this. And when I got to Tokyo, I was walking around. I remember like looking up at the buildings, like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, and meanwhile, I tried to not show it because, you don't want to be a hick, right? You wanted to, because the girls, I could feel it at the time. It was Japan's sexual revolution. Foreigners were just starting to go to Japan. There was a lot of interest in foreigners. It was a very, very hot time, okay? It was like, think of the 60s, the peak of the 60s, when the energy was high and everybody went to fucking Haight-Ashbury, right? And they were like having sex in the parks and dancing, and there was this freedom, and there was this like throwing off of the old. That was the kind of mood that was going on in Japan. Although I've never heard anybody say that, but I'm telling you right now, this is exactly the way it was. And everybody that was there at that time is going to be fucking commenting below, because it was exactly like this. It was crazy. The Japanese were so wealthy. Things were fucking crazy, right? And it was really exciting, actually. And I love, by the way, I fucking love good feelings and excitement. And I gravitate towards people like this, groups like this, cities like this, countries like this. And when those things disappear, I tend to lose interest, or, I'm looking for, I love that energy. And I think that energy really helps you. And if you don't think so, I think you're kidding yourself. I think you are influenced by the outside. There's no doubt about it. People in UK are very depressed. And when they come to Thailand, you see them in the sun and everything. And I see their mood. If they stay here 5-10 years, I watch them change into more optimistic people. It's just my own observation. But I have actually seen it happen in front of my eyes with British people, like really clear. I came from a sunny place. So I was always kind of like that. I was like Arizona, California, like it was nice in a way. It was fucking hot and nice, sunny, right? And so, like you're influenced by the outside. But, okay, so now here I am in this fucking city blown away by this, the sheer amount of people. They're pushing us into the train in the morning, right? There was a guy back then who was like, his job was to shove us in so that we could fit in, because if you waited for the next train, it was going to be just as crowded. So it was like, everybody had to get to work, and we all filed in the train. And you learned, in Japan, you really learned how to be a citizen of, I'm not a global citizen, but you learned in Japan how to care about others, to have manners. There's so many things I learned from Japan. I can't even I could do a whole fucking video on that. I learned how to control my body. So for example, when I turn around now, my arms used to swing wildly when I would turn around. Because I never had to think about it. I mean, on the beach in California, small town, there was nothing there. In Japan, there's always a person there. There's always some fragile glass thing in a shop there. If you turn around, you have to put your arms close to yourself and then turn around slowly in Tokyo. Everybody does this naturally, because there's so many people. Anytime you turn around, you have to always know there might be somebody there, right? There might be something there. So you learn these manners, you learn these things, and I learned so much from Japan. I have such gratitude. For Japan. I'm going to add one other thing I learned. I worked for a while. I did I was an independent contractor for Pioneer. And I went to Pioneer in Kawagoe to their factory, and it was time for my salary. And so I said to the secretary, I said, "Hey, where do I get my salary?" She said, "Oh, just over there, the envelopes." So I went over there, and there was a box for each employee and each contractor. There was their name on them, right? And I saw my name and I saw my envelope. I grabbed it. It was cash. It was just an envelope full of cash. So I looked at the other envelopes, and some of them were very fat, like the top bosses, right? And so I said to the girl, I said, this is all cash. And she said, yeah. And it was around the corner too. There was nobody there. It was like a space, nobody. It was like a quiet room with nobody, no cameras, no people. And I said I went back to the girl and I said, you mean everybody's salary is just in cash in the envelopes there? And she's like, oh yeah, did you see yours? I said, oh yeah, I got mine. Then no problem. She said, and I said, well, but what if somebody, they're just all cash and nobody's there. What if somebody took, somebody's envelope? And she looked at me like, oh my gosh. She actually looked at me like she had never even thought of this. This is I'm serious. Japan was so safe back then. It was amazing. She literally looked at me like in astonishment, oh my God, we have to watch these foreign creatures because, and then you could see she got quite nervous. She was like, oh my God, even mentioning that you could steal something or take something that's not yours. And she said, well, that wouldn't be their envelope. So they wouldn't do that. She said, people look for their name and then they take their envelope. And I thought, wow, and I had a lot of experiences like this in Japan and other countries too, especially Sweden back then. But, and I thought about it, I really thought about my life. I thought about so many things. And in the end, at that time, I got to tell you guys, and I think it was a natural reaction. I was embarrassed to be American for a moment because, let's face it, in America, if you left a bunch of money around, people would steal it, and also manners are different, right? And yeah, I understand there's motivations. I understand, it's complicated, and also Japan is changing. But at the time, I remember thinking because I kind of thought that America was the peak of culture at the time, because it was leading the world. This is a long time ago, guys, 30 years ago, going to space, so many things. Everybody wanted to move to America. I wasn't a rah-rah person, but it's obviously a good place. There's a reason. In the 60s, America was the hottest place in the whole world. Everybody wanted to go to America. This music scene, everything was happening. The space race, medicine, things were happening, right? People wanted to go to America. I was raised in this generation, right? So I had this kind of impression that, America's good place, And as I went to other countries, I saw these other things, and I started to realize that there was, I matured basically, and part of my maturation process was just seeing that some people respect other people's property completely, even if nobody's watching at all. And I was like, fuck, that's so cool. That I can tell you this, and every long-term Japan person will tell you this, is that Japan changed them forever. And this is what they're talking about. They might not be able to articulate it like I just did, but they just realize that there's more to human, what do you call it? Like not emotions, not traditions, respect, or there's more to learn. There's more out there, and I really enjoyed the Japanese way of living. And I found money before in Japan, and I would return it. I found a bunch of money one time in an envelope. I don't know if it was somebody's pay or whatever. I found a wallet full of money in a bathroom in Osaka. I turned it in. And, this was just, we also kind of, all of us foreigners, I think we enjoyed living in a place like that, and we wanted to be part of it and to give, like, hey, man, I really feel like there was a lot of people like this. And any Japan people, like, tell me what you think. I really think there was a lot of people who were from different countries where it was very different. Like, they were raised in, different countries, third world, and they got to Japan, they realized the way it was in Japan, and then they started to not just do what the Japanese did, but actually do it more even. It's like it was a way to show, because the Japanese looked down on people who stole things. Like the Japanese were like, yeah, I mean, of course, you could steal something, but that would be wrong. That would be harming yourself, and that would be a bad thing. That would create distrust and would hurt your relations with people, and you would be not a role model for other people, and you would start to disrespect yourself, and you would lose your bearings, and like that, simple things that are obviously true. And so a lot of people, like, when we lived in Japan, we also were like, fuck, hell yeah, Americans can be like this too. And we all kind of like did. It was unspoken, but I saw many people doing things that I don't think they would have done if they lived in America. Like, I think they were fundamentally altered, and I was fundamentally altered. And the way I do business, the way I think about honesty is completely changed by the Japanese. So either way, so there were so many things I learned from Japan. But one of the things I learned, okay, back to the topic, but again, who cares about the topic? All these things are so valuable for me. The topic, whatever the fuck. Okay, let's get to what I was thinking about talking about. And that was the ability to not see. Okay, now, when you are on a personal journey, and I talked about transformation in my last video, one of the key things you need to do is you need to be able to see and to not to the king has no clothes, and to ignore reality. So if your needs or expectations are going unmet and you feel uncomfortable, part of transformation is realizing, hey, those things are not being met. This person is not able to give me these things I need. This situation is making me feel uncomfortable. I don't like this. And so not to blame it on other people, but to say, okay, what do I like? What do I want? Where will I put my boundaries? What do I feel about life, and where do I want to go? So these are all the things you learn about when you're in a process of deep personal change. Okay, but there's another skill that I want to add in. I think this balances it all out. Is the Japanese have this amazing ability to not see. And you want to have both, okay? You want to see and feel, okay, be in reality. And you also want to have, I think, add in the Japanese ability to not see. So let me describe what I think that is. Okay, so for example, you're in Japan and you're walking down the street and you'll see a bunch of Japanese people. I already mentioned about the train. So you're in the train. I should go back to that. You're in the train. It's super crowded. And you're like squished against some girl who's like super hot. And you're instinct is like, oh my God, but what you learn to do in the train is to ignore everybody and to not to ignore like in a negative sense, but almost to be in your own world. So you're in the middle of this train, it's super crowded, everybody's sweaty, you're uncomfortable. I was in a train once, okay? This is how crowded it gets. It's probably almost difficult to understand. I think even in Tokyo today, it's not as crowded as it was then. But I was taking a train one time from Chiba to Tokyo. It was so crowded. Okay, this is how crowded it was. It's almost impossible to imagine. I looked at the train and I had to catch the train. I had to be somewhere. And I'm like, I got my suit on, I had my tie, and I'm like, shit, I got to get on this train. So I fucking squeeze in, right? I mean, when I say squeeze, I mean like physically, there was barely room for my body. I had to relax my body in order to allow myself to be soft enough to squeeze into the space that I needed, right? I needed to almost make myself smaller and more pliable to get into this space. And I got into the train, and then all the movement, everybody moves with you. So you're like tripping on things. You're trying not to trip, right? Because if you fall down, it's really bad. So, although sometimes when it's this crowded, actually, what am I saying? When it's this crowded, even if you fall down, you don't fall down because your body's held up by other people. That's how crowded it is. So either way, I got in the train. I'm like, and I'm doing my best to hold on to my briefcase because my briefcase, you can't, there's nothing you can do about the briefcase. You have to I have it there on my side, and then it just starts getting it gets wedged between people somehow, and then it starts getting pulled away. So I'm doing my best to hold on to the briefcase while not using the briefcase as a weapon, right? I didn't want to pull it into somebody, right? I'm trying to be kind, so I'm kind of stretching out my arm a little bit, trying to hold on to it, my fingers. And I get in the train. I'm like, oh, woo, got in, right? And then I look down, and my tie is gone. It was so crowded that my tie, okay, had squished against my chest so much and had somehow pulled the necktie off of my neck. It was tied like a normal tie. My necktie was torn off of my body. And I was like, oh no, my necktie, it's got to be on the ground somewhere. I'll never find it. It's too crowded. And then, I said, my necktie. And then I said out loud, because no one talks in Japan. I said, my necktie. And then somebody goes, because I needed it, right? And then somebody 2 meters away is like, I got it. Some Japanese guy, right? So he's like, everybody starts laughing, and then he hands it over. Everybody hands it over to me. And it was great. But the Japanese have this ability to be in their own world. And it's a coping mechanism. And it's a very valuable one too. And it allows them to be in this crowded space and also to be in their own world. And now of course, nowadays people use headphones more than ever. And that's part of them getting in their own space. But in those days, the Japanese could pretty much do it on their own. This is pre-internet. They could just you would see them go into their own space. And they were just their eyes were not there. They were completely relaxed. They were completely thinking about something else. It really, almost a meditative state. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. Because at first I was like, wow, it's super crowded here. So then, okay, how I realized the first thing about the trains was, because what we do, we don't see from the outside, right? I was super uncomfortable in the beginning. I looked at the Japanese. I copied and emulated their actions. Although I didn't know what I was copying, I just did it naturally because I'm that kind of a person. I'm a very adaptable person. So I just kind of I guess I just subconsciously started copying the way they did things. And I started going into my own space. Well, then what happened was a few months later, my brother came to visit. And he was like, hey, damn, it's so crowded. Let's take a cab. I said, dude, the cab's worse. There's going to be traffic. And I said, we got to take the train. And then he's like, how do you deal with this? And I literally didn't even know what he was talking about. I'm like, deal with what? He's like, it's so crowded. And I was like, oh, right. I was thinking wow, I've already adapted to this environment. To me, it didn't bother me at all. I just kind of squeezed in. It wasn't like you're being physically hurt, right? It wasn't painful or anything. It was just super tight, okay? And you were sweating, right? But it wasn't like you felt like sharp things in your body. You know what I mean? It wasn't like that kind of pain. It was just squeezed in, right? And it was just emotionally uncomfortable, right? And like too close, right? But I adapted. And when my brother said that, I thought, oh, holy crap, I learned to do this. Okay, so I'll talk about the next thing I learned. And this is the same skill. I really recommend you learning this skill. I was walking by this little shrine in Atami. I can't remember who I went with. Some girl took me down there. And Atami is like a place where you go. It's kind of like a mini Las Vegas or something. It's like a place you go, like what goes in Las Vegas, stays in Las Vegas. It's that kind of place. Now, not so much anymore, but in Japanese history. And still today for some people, Atami is like that. It's a beach town. It's very easily reachable from Tokyo in about 25 minutes by Shinkansen. So it's kind of like really convenient. But it's like a honeymoon destination. There's a lot of love hotels. They're all like, heart-shaped bathtubs and bubbly baths, and there was a lot of that kind of stuff for lovers to go. It's not a prostitution place at all. Okay, it's not in any way, shape, or form. It's like a lover's place. You take your lover there, and so either way, she took me there, and we were having a great time. And I was walking down the street, and I see all these Japanese guys. Now, back in this day, Japanese used to wear suits. Everybody, all the time. I'm not kidding. Like I saw Japanese guys going in the ocean with a suit on. They would take their shoes off and their socks off. But I remember seeing Japanese guys go in the ocean with a suit on. I kid you fucking not. Because I was like, what in the fuck, But it was a different era, right? The Japanese were just getting casual. They were just getting modernized. They were opening up. And so they didn't know how to do it. They were like, Japanese don't wear shorts, nobody wore shorts. A friend of mine imported shorts back in 1990 or 1988 to Japan and tried to sell shorts and earrings. And he lost all his money because the Japanese were like, he thought that because they didn't have shorts, right? He thought, well, I'll make a lot of money. And then when he got there, they were like, well, Japanese we know shorts exist, but that's not our culture. We don't wear shorts. He's like, what do you mean? Never? They're like, no, guys don't wear shorts. And he's like, God damn it. He spent a lot of money on shorts and importing them to Japan. Next thing imported was earrings. But the problem was they were pierced earrings from Indonesia. Japanese girls did not, that was another cultural thing. They didn't wear pierced earrings yet. They wore clip-on earrings. And he lost all his money on both those products. His only products. He lost all his money on the trip. But because he didn't understand the culture. He thought they were cute earrings. Japanese girls liked cute. They were very cute, actually. I remember the earrings, actually. Very cute. And now he could sell them in Japan. Although now there's a lot of competition because Japanese girls all get pierced ears now. And guys wear shorts, right? Things have changed. But back then, it was a completely different world. Japanese girls thought that piercing your ear was like it was like defiling your body. You shouldn't do that. Like a prostitute. It's not a good thing to pierce your body. Or tattoos also, they were like the Yakuza only, right? So either way, there's so many like things. So either way, these Japanese guys, and picture the scene. So the reason why I said that story is because picture this. It's like a Sunday afternoon. It's a beautiful sunny day in Atami on the beach, hot day, and all these Japanese guys are wearing suits. It's so funny. They're all dressed up, right? And they're standing by this little shrine. And they're all taking pictures. And they're all oohing and awing and oohing and awing. And I walked by and I was like, what are they doing? I couldn't even see. So I went through the crowd and I looked in there. And I saw that there was a little shrine there. But the thing is, I couldn't understand it because there was huge electric cables in front of the shrine. There was the road was like a back road down to the beach in Atami. If you've ever been there, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's like a onsen town. It's a hot spring town. So in the back streets in Atami, it's quite weird because all the hot springs have these sulfur. They have sulfur. What do you call it? Like mines down to the hot water, and so sulfur is like bubbling up, and the smell, and it's kind of weird. The back roads are weird in Atami. They're not like normal Japanese cities. It's like everybody, there's hot springs. Every hotel has hot springs. So this is in the area right down to the beach. and it's like this strange. It's almost like dystopian type thing. There's smoke coming up. There's sulfur. There's like weird stuff going on, right? It would be perfect for a horror movie or a war movie or something. It's just shooting autonomy. I've thought this for years. But either way, so they're all standing there on this weird street, on the back street, and staring at this thing. And I look in the shrine, and there's like blooming flowers, right? So that's what they were taking pictures of, is the blooming flowers. And the Japanese had this amazing ability to zero in, laser in on those flowers. That's all they saw. They could not see the sulfur. They could not see the smell the smell. They could not see the huge electric wires that ruined the scene. Like really, today I think Japanese, have a more global vision of their country. And today they're trying to put cables underground. They're recognizing things that they didn't see before. But the reason why they didn't see them is because, what's the point, right? What do you want to be depressed all the time and just looking at the negatives in life? No, you want to just, at the same time as you want to, when you need to change yourself, you need to see yourself honestly, right? You need to see your faults. You need to see how others are, affecting you and how you're affecting them and your actions and you're learning, you're being honest, right? If somebody's got a drinking problem, you're not covering it up in your mind. You're like, that's not normal. Blackouts every day, not normal, right? You're starting to be honest with these things. But there are times in life where there's so much good around you, okay? But but you only see the bad because there is a lot of things that make you uncomfortable, that could make you unhappy if you think about them, right? So, like for example, I'm recording this audio right now in my apartment because I'm going to go up to the pool and do yoga in a minute, but I'm going to have to ignore the fact that they're renovating the walkway. So they have these guys up there with this metal saw, and they're just cutting away. And the last video I made in the library, so there's like a wall between the cutting. But when I'm out at the yoga, I'm right next to it. I can smell the welding and the cutting of the metal. And the guy is like hammering with a hammer, like on metal. He's like hammering metal together. Like I don't know what he's doing because it's all walled off. But the guy is like really making a lot of noise. Like I don't know how you can make more noise. It sounds sometimes like he's dropping metal from a 10-story building into a pile of metal. You know what I mean? Like it's like this amazing crash of metal. So I was doing yoga, totally relaxed. And I would make this video up there with the sound in the background. I was going to do that just to show you, get you to visualize the sounds. But then I thought to myself, fuck, they're not going to be able to hear me. So I didn't do that. But I will go up there and do yoga. And what I'm going to do when I get up there is I'm going to get into my own mind, and I'm going to focus on each movement in my body. I'm going to focus on that muscle. I'm going to focus on the feeling of the pose, each pose. I'm going to go as deeply as I can go into that pose. I'm going to focus on my breath. I'm going to breathe, and I'm going to focus on each of the 26 postures. And I'm going to ignore or not see, not hear, not smell, because you can smell the welding and everything, the cutting. I'm going to not see, not hear, not smell the welding and noise and distraction. So you want both of those things. Because what happens, here's why you want them. The reason why you want them is that if you don't have the ability to unsee things, to not see things, you will be a puppet for the world. Because when somebody starts making noise in a restaurant, when you hear, when somebody does something in your life, you will react. It's almost like you're a puppet. You're a puppet for anything that annoys you. And I think that internalizing and improving and focusing on the ability to not see to not see things, to not feel things, and also to focus on things. So one of the things you can do, practically after this podcast is when you have something in your life, next time you have something, Okay, this is the most basic one that works, I think, very, very well. Is next time you're in a situation where something is going wrong, okay, somebody's doing something that you don't like. So you're at a restaurant and somebody's making a scene or somebody's complaining really stupidly about something, and it makes you unhappy. Or there's a lot of noise, like your kids are going crazy, right? Or again, you're in a situation where you wanted to do something, like you go to the park, you wanted to have a good time, but instead there's a lot of things going on at the park that make it impossible or uncomfortable to do what you wanted to do. What I recommend as an early step, and probably the most important step, is to breathe. And this works also, especially at the dentist. So next time you go to the dentist, okay, you're going to be getting drilled, you're going to get injections. What you want to do is you want to be like a yogi. And I would recommend practicing this when you're by yourself, like at night, before you go to sleep. But then when you go to the dentist, is you want to breathe like 6 seconds in, and then I'm not doing it exactly, but 6 seconds out. 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out. Doesn't matter if you do 4 seconds, doesn't matter. You want to just focus on that long breath in. Try to pull your stomach down from your, like, below. So it's almost like you're pulling in, up and in your belly. So it's going up into your rib cage and then down and out. And then up and in and then down and out. And you focus on that. Focus on that. Focus on your breath. And what you'll find is your breath will naturally relax you. And that focusing on your breath while you're in the dentist, let's say you got your mouth open. I recently had my teeth cleaned and had my mouth open. And it was actually pretty uncomfortable. She was scraping around and, I forgot what she did, but yeah, that's right. They use the electric drill scraper thing. And it was like something I don't like. I don't like the dentist. And, I felt like part of me always says, are they doing this too hard? Are they damaging my teeth? Feels like it always. But either way, she was cleaning my teeth. And I was like, yeah, breathe. So I started to focus on my breath. And it was so ridiculous, guys. It was so effective. It was so, when you do something that's so effective that you feel embarrassed. Because I was like, why did I not think of this before? It's like I sit there dreading the dentist every time. I was so relaxed in the dentist. Almost I felt like it was dangerous. Like I was completely relaxed. I was not even thinking about the dentist. It didn't even bother me. No joke. I'm not sure it'll happen next time. But man, it was effective last time. So try this. Is to not just to breathe deeply, but to focus on your breath. So close your eyes, focus on your breath. Feel your stomach coming up, sucking in, and then your stomach coming out. Like you're making your belly fat on the way out. And then you're sucking up. You your belly and everything goes up inside your rib cage, and then pushing it out. Like you're trying to have a baby. You know what I mean? Trying to push it out like you have a baby in your belly. That's the feeling. This will do it. And this will allow you to start to realize that you can control how you feel. It's not up to outside forces. You have control of your own emotions and your own perceptions. So when something happens and you see everybody around you reacting, everybody's like, oh my God, this is the worst, their service, whatever. You just go, that's cool. Go into your breath. And you'll be amazed at how the world looks afterwards. So if you try this, okay, I want you to post below and tell me how it went. How did the world look? When you went into that space, okay, where you couldn't see, right, not seeing, not feeling, not hearing. But again, it's not like this closing off. It's like taking your focus, okay? Your focus is all over the place on things that other people want you to think about or things that are being thrown at you, right? And you're taking that focus like a laser and focus on what you want to focus it on. Your focus is going to be there, okay? You can't get rid of it. Your focus will be there. But where does it go? Are you being played by the world, or are you using it to your benefit? And then what will happen is, I'm not going to say, actually I shouldn't say, because I want you to do the self-discovery on this one. Tell me what you see when you come out of this. Next time you're in a chaotic situation, or a situation that would have made you very uncomfortable before, angry, whatever, and then go into the breathing, focus on the breathing. Take your focus, instead of letting it go everywhere else, focus on the breathing. And it's very gratifying. Just that in itself is very gratifying. And it takes your blood pressure down. There's a lot of good things to your body. But it allows you to control your emotions and to be master of your own life. And tell me what the world looked like when you came out. So how did it look before? And then how did it look after to you? Because for me, the world, when I do this, I come out of it and I see that everyone around me is reacting to this situation as if they have no control, as if they're puppets. And I see them a certain way when I come out of it. And I can see so many things. So I'm not going to say what I see. I want you to comment. After everybody comments, I'll start commenting what I see. But I want you to try it. And what do you see? What do you see when you have the ability to command your own focus and you come out of it? Well, what do you see in the world around you? What do you learn? Right? All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you listening. And this has been I would say I feel gratitude to Japan for what I learned here. And I gotta hand it to Japan. I'm glad I was able to experience the wisdom of Asia, and that was partly what I got. Again, it's not all good and all that, but hey, man, take the gems. When you see a gem on the ground, pick the thing up. Don't worry about it. Pick the damn thing up. All right, guys. Ronin Man signing off. I'm off to yoga at the sawing and welding, which I will not notice. I will be in my breath. All right, guys. Take it easy.